Hello. I'm back. It's been a little while since I've made any videos. I've been having some mental health problems and I quit smoking, going 2 months strong now, so yay, that's great. Um, per request of my mother-in-law, when I make my videos now, I'm going to be trying to wear my teeth. So if I talk a little funny, I'm sorry. Um, I wanted to show you guys my new shirt. I love it. It says, I fell in love with the man who died for me. These beautiful young ladies were standing outside of Walmart the other night in the cold selling these different t-shirts. I also bought one that says, all I need is Jesus and coffee. And that's very true. And my children, of course. But they are a nonprofit organization. I can't remember exactly what for, but I know it was a good cause. But I supported them by buying these t-shirts, and I love that. Well, today, I bought this book, A Look at Life from a Deer Stand, Hunting for the Meaning of Life by Steve Chapman. I bought this a while back thinking maybe I could read it and it could help me get closer to my husband because he's a hunter and he's not devout in his faith like I am. He does believe in Christ, and he has been saved, or at least that's what he told me. So cross your fingers, hope that's true. He likes to fib a lot to make me shut up, but so I thought I'd get this book so I could learn how to convey the Lord's message to him through deer hunting. So I just started reading it. And a lot of times I like to go on YouTube. I don't want to pay for an audiobook, you know. I'm a stay-at-home mom, so I don't have an income. So I like to go on YouTube and look for audiobooks. Well, I searched on YouTube. I found videos of this man talking about the book, but there were no audio readings of this book. So I think that I'm going to do that. And I'm going to post them on my YouTube channel. I might post them on Facebook if I can get my phone to work properly. And that way, if you're like me and you are busy cooking and cleaning and doing schoolwork and running errands and this and that and everything else, and you don't really have a whole lot of time to just sit and chill, you know, you just put on your headphones and listen to my beautiful voice reading you this book. I'm already into chapter 3, but I'm going to start over because already I am just enthralled in this book. It is thrilling. I did not know, I didn't know that deer hunting could be so exciting, so soul cleansing. It makes me want to do it now. Now I'm starting to understand why my husband, the hunting season comes around, and he's like, bye. He puts that camo on, grabs that bow, and heads into the woods, and he's in there as much as he possibly can. And I get upset about it sometimes. I miss him, but I'm starting to understand. So in this video, I am going to read you the back. I forgot what that's called, the description, I guess, of this book, and then the next video I will start to read it to you. So it says, the thrill of the hunt, the thrill of living for God. The adventure of a lifetime awaits when you join avid outdoorsman Steve Chapman on the hunt for more than just deer. As Steve retells some of his best hunting stories, you'll gain valuable insights on relationships, success, and most important, spiritual growth. With humor and honesty, Steve shares the ups and downs from his numerous treks into deer country. Relive some of your fondest hunting memories and draw closer to God as you read about the wonder and anticipation of a teenage boy's first hunt. Oh, I remember when my brother and my little cousins went on their first hunt, they were so excited. They were over the moon, ready to get up at the butt crack of dawn and trek out into them cold, dark woods with my papaw. Oh my goodness. Us girls never got to go, though. It wasn't that kind of family, we stayed home. And I kind of followed that path and became a stay-at-home mom. But anyway, a generous gesture that turns into a double portion of venison. I love venison. My deep freeze is plumb full of it, and I have found tons of amazing recipes. My family, sometimes it's the only thing that sustains us through the winter. I know growing up, when winter came, it was venison, squirrel, whatever else they could kill. Summer came, it was hamburgers, hot dogs, and fish. I grew up in a hunting family, so yeah, I'm used to it. The mixed emotions of a hunter trekking wounded game. To hear my husband talk about tracking a deer he has shot, or that he thinks he has shot and maybe missed, or it's the intensity of it. It just makes a man feel alive, I think, or a woman if you're a huntress. A father and son who both get their first deer with a bow on the same day. My husband prefers a bow. He loves his bow. He did a crossbow for a little while, but quickly learned that he didn't really like that, and he switched back to a compound bow. An unexpected encounter with a magnificent whitetail. Ooh. Join the hundreds of thousands of outdoor enthusiasts who have been inspired in their faith by Steve's entertaining and insightful anecdotes. That's what that word is. It says Steve Chapman and his wife Annie are award-winning musicians who take their message of Christ-centered family to fans all over North America. Steve's enthusiasm for Jesus, family, hunting, and humor shines in his books, including The Hunt for Faith, The Hunter's Cookbook with Annie Chapman, and Great Hunting Stories. Oh my goodness, I actually had not read the back of this book. I was saving it to read it with you guys. And I have chills, literal chills. I definitely am going to be searching for those 3 books that I just mentioned. Whew. And I did go on YouTube and find some of their music, and they are beautiful music artists. Their music, it's soul healing. It really is. So yeah, that we'll go ahead and read the dedication and the foreword and introduction. Foreword, not like forward, like, okay. I'm sure you'll understand. My cat is lovin's. My dedication and thanks for giving me a reason to write this book go to the following folks in my life. I love the way this man talks. Good old country boy. To PJ and Lillian Chapman, my parents, for trusting me in my young years with an activity that has its dangers. My baby boy keeps asking me when he can go hunting with Daddy. And I keep telling him, not till you're older, not till you're 10, not till you're old enough to take a hunter safety course. That ain't gonna happen. Mama has her fears. I can't let go just yet. I will, but not yet. He's still way too young. Tell me, you're goofy. To Kenneth Bledsoe, for taking me on my first hunt in 1964. And he has a passage in here about that man. To Annie, my wife, for making me go to the woods from time to time to precious time. And to my arrows, Nathan and Heidi, for keeping me straight. It'll explain more about the whole arrows analogy in chapter 3. Okay, the foreword. In many ways, I knew Steve Chapman before I ever met him. In 1985, I became acquainted with his music. I'll never forget the first time I heard Steve and Annie sing their popular song, Turn Your Heart Towards Home. Sorry, my teeth. I can't talk right. Its message is to families of America. Its message to the families of America is powerful. And to this day, I find myself humming this song and thinking about its words. I've since become a big fan of Steve and Annie Chapman's music, though our careers are much different. Steve and I have several common bonds that draw us together. Certainly, our love for the family and the joy we share in knowing Jesus Christ as our Savior are paramount. However, the thing that caused us to finally meet and become friends was our mutual love and respect for the white-tailed deer. My husband knows something about that. We got 2 of them hanging up on the wall and waiting on the 3rd one to be mounted. I told him he's gonna have to stop. We're running out of wall room. Not long ago, we spent an afternoon kicking around our farm, looking at whitetails and talking about deer hunting. Steve made a name for himself with his music, but I don't know if I've ever met a more avid whitetail hunter. The mere mention of whitetails puts a smile on his face and a twinkle in his eye. If talking about hunting don't do that to you, well then you ain't a very good hunter, or you must not like it very much. So when Steve asked me to write the foreword for this book, I was more than curious and excited about what the book would be like. His title intrigued me, and knowing his gift for writing, I was anxious to see the manuscript. Suffice it to say, I couldn't put it down. I was struck by Steve's unique and wonderful way of communicating his deer hunting experience and his outlook on life. At times, I found myself roaring with laughter. Other times, I sat thinking about the serious side of his words. Words that vividly illustrate how I can become a better person, a better father, a better husband, the things that matter most in life. He makes me think. The man is a breath of fresh air, a living and breathing gift from God, blending down home, or shall I say backwoods, humor and candor. Steve has masterfully written down many of the things we as hunters think about while sitting on a deer stand. Some of these words I may have trouble with. I am from the mountains of West Virginia, so I'm pretty good at reading and writing, but some words I just don't know. You're in for a real treat, but forewarned, this is not your typical deer hunting book. No, it will not tell you how to kill a deer, how to kill the biggest buck in the woods, but it might change your life. It is a powerful work from one of the country's top songwriters. When I finished the last page of the manuscript, I gazed out the window and pondered what I had just read. Over and over, one thought kept coming back to me. A look at life from a deer stand should be mandatory reading for every deer hunter in America. It's that good. That was written by Charles J. Alshimer, field editor, Deer and Deer Hunting. Wow, that was good. Another thing I like about this book already is he talks about the mountains of West Virginia, which is where I'm from, and then he talks about how he lives in Tennessee, and he does his hunting here in Tennessee, and mostly, and that's where I'm from. That's where I'm at. That's where we live. And I just think that's wonderful. That's wonderful. We're going to read the introduction now. Sorry, my mouth was getting dry. Introduction. I like this. It's the scene he paints in the introduction is just mind-blowing. The dry fallen leaves lightly crunch on the ground behind the tree I was perched in, and my heart started to race. I knew that sound. It was not a squirrel or a busy chipmunk stirring back there. The sound was unique. I had heard it before. I didn't move a muscle, even though everything within me wanted to shift my body to take a look. I fought my instincts and sat motionless, gripping my compound bow in my nervous hand and rehearsing the steps to pulling back the draw. It seemed like an hour before I heard the next step, though I knew that less than a minute had passed. These situations always make life seem longer. I turned my eyes in their sockets as far right as I could and hoped for movement. Sure enough, I saw a form move and then stop. Sorry, my nose is itching. As slowly as a shadow on a sundial, I rotated my head and looked. 18 feet below my tree stand stood the creature I had been waiting for. It was an 8-point white-tailed buck deer. What a rush! Oh my goodness, my nose is like super itchy. Sorry about that. My wait to spot such a magnificent creature had not begun that morning, 30 minutes before daylight. Instead, my vigil started the day hunting season had ended the year before. I was, to put it honestly, addicted to the rush of excitement I felt in that moment. Getting close enough to hear the cautious footstep of one of the smartest animals on earth is absolutely intoxicating. Add to that ingredient an attempt to inflict the animal with fatal wound using a primitive weapon like a bow and arrow. You have the makings for an adrenaline pie, and I was loving it. That morning, the unsuspecting buck moved about 5 more yards ahead and was then beyond my tree. My body language told me that he was not unusually cautious. He was being his normal, careful self. That signified to me that he didn't know I was there. He intermittently looked on down the ridge and then dropped his head to search the forest floor for acorns. I had done some thorough preseason scouting and figuring he would pass on my left where the trail was. I am a right-handed shooter, so I set up to accommodate my type of shot. However, years of experience have taught me one thing. It's impossible to consistently predict a deer's movement, and you can never be totally certain about his habits. This book was proving me right. Because of my position, I had to make some adjustments before I could shoot my bow. I had to stand and shift my entire body slightly to the right, which involved the risk of being detected. I knew that anything could happen, from my tree stand squeaking to my hat falling off. I had no choice, however. I had to stand up. With every ounce of control I could summon, I tightened my already tense leg muscles and slowly yet quietly began to stand up. I moved only when the deer's head was behind a tree, concealing his eyes. My legs trembled some as I stood, but it didn't surprise me. I had dealt with this before. I knew the challenge of buck fever. This level of excitement has been known to cause heart attacks in some hunters. Why should a little tremble of the body not be expected? Finally, I was standing. So far, so good. The buck had not seen me, and I was watching him take a few more casual steps. He was about 6 feet right of my 20-yard yellow ribbon marker that I had hung from the branch of a sapling. It was an ideal distance for my ability. I quietly connected my mechanical release to the string and waited for the right moment to raise my bow to a drawing position. I also reminded myself that the white was the color of the 20-yard pin mounted to my sights. With my stance finally in position, my upper body was about to be put to the test. My arm and back muscles had to pull the string back, which was set at 63-pound pull weight. Yeah, I could never do that. As pumped as I was, one would think it would feel like 63 ounces. Not so. In that scenario, it felt as if I were pulling back on a tightly wound piano string. I couldn't believe how my arms shook as I attempted full draw. It had been much easier back on the practice range. I felt embarrassed at how hard it was. As if being instructed by an outdoor magazine photographer, the 8-point buck turned broadside as I searched for him in my peep sight. This is too easy, I thought. I lined up the white pin on his vital area and began a slight finger pressure on the trigger of the release. Stop! The target moved. He took 3 large steps and suddenly was standing behind a large oak. All I could see was his head and his rear. I read that to my kids and they all started laughing because I said rear. His vitals were protected by a ton of the hardest timber in the woods. I held at full draw another 20 to 30 seconds and finally succumbed to the loss of strength. As I let the bow limbs relax, something awful happened. The aluminum arrow that was sliding across the vinyl-coated prongs of the rest somehow jumped out and banged against the riser of the bow. The meadow-on-meadow click that it made would hardly have been noticed on the practice range. But in the woods, it sounded like the crack of a baseball bat at Wrigley Field. The buck immediately detected the source of the noise, and the white warning flag went up. The dirt flew as he dug into the soft ground under the leaves, and as quickly as he had come, he was gone. Also missing were some valuable possessions of mine, like pride, ego, happiness, and confidence. I was hurt, though the buck ran off and left me frustrated and disappointed. He didn't take with him my ability to learn. As a result of that morning, I now have mounted on the riser of my bow a patch of soft, self-adhesive moleskin material, the type one uses to doctor their feet. I at least was able to add one more important lesson to the long list of do's and don'ts required to be successful in taking a whitetail. Experience is indeed the best teacher. Such as deer hunting. Every time I walk into the woods, I learn something new. It really is one of the joys of the activity. While some people would be absolutely bored out of their minds sitting for hours hoping to get close to a deer, I find that it is full of fathomless fun. Unlike the pilot that says flying is hours and hours of boredom interrupted by moments of stark fear, deer hunting is hours and hours of sweet anticipation graced with moments of incredible excitement. Though it may be difficult at times to justify an activity not necessary for most of us in the modern age, there are some practical benefits that can be enjoyed from hunting the whitetail. For example, venison is a wonderful food source. I readily admit that meat for the table is much cheaper and more easily obtained at the local market. My wife Annie has calculated that the cost of venison can range from $5 a pound for a local deer in Tennessee to $13 per pound for a western deer. Of course, my response, and I'm sure you've used this argument at one time or another, is that the meat is lean and good for the heart. Another helpful contribution to many of us is the needed break from our busy lifestyles that hunting provides. The mental medicine is very effective and comes much less expensively than what one can get on the psychiatrist's couch. Besides the healthy meat and the healing therapy of simply being in the wild, there is one other benefit I have gleaned from deer hunting. I call it the harvest of truths. While it's a fact that each time I go out, I learn something new about a hunting tactic or a technical improvement to my equipment, there are greater lessons about life that I have bagged that are now mounted on the wall of my heart. These trophies are a result of the think time that hunting yields. Those hours of waiting were never wasted as I sat and observed the nature that surrounded me and studied the process of hunting. Some amazing parallels between what happens in the woods and what takes place in life have been discovered during those hours of sleep. For example, on the morning described above, I found that my equipment needed certain adjustments to function more effectively. In the same way, I have come upon needed changes in my life that have made me better equipped to accomplish other tasks. Areas like being a husband and a father, or a laborer and a friend, have needed slight tuning from time to time. The pages that follow are a collection of these discoveries as well as some modifications in my life that came about because of the valuable lessons I learned from being a hunter. I have a feeling that you are a hunter too. Some of the truths I have found while hunting deer will be familiar. Perhaps there are some life-altering lessons you have drawn from being in the woods that I am yet to apply. Just give me time. If you are not a woodsman or a woods person, this writing may still interest you because there is so much to learn out there. So come along, let's go hunting, and we'll take a look at the life from a deer stand. That introduction is so beautiful and so well written that it draws you in. It makes you literally just want to go sit in nature. It does. My hope for this book is that I will feel a better closeness, feel more of a closeness to my husband and understand something that he enjoys. Him and I don't have really anything in common, and that puts space between us quite a lot. And so, and I'm looking for a way to bridge that gap and be able to share experiences through Christ together. And he doesn't read. He doesn't like to read. If you ask him, what's your favorite book? His answer would be, I don't read. I always hated people that said that, but my husband, he doesn't read. So my hope is in making these videos, maybe he'll watch them. He usually hates my videos, but maybe I can get him to watch them and hear this book. Because I think he'd really enjoy it, and I think a lot of other people would too. So that was the introduction. In my next video, I will start on chapter 1. It's called First to Last. So stay tuned. Bye, everybody. Bless y'all.